So today we're going to focus on some of that. And please, you guys, ask me questions. I love, questions along the way to have more of an interactive discussion. Things just like what it takes to be successful in the industry. This was something that Aaron asked me to focus on today. So the winning formula always for success in the industry is the right project in the right hands at the right time, because it's all about timing. So for myself, I'm constantly honing my skills, like developing my projects, being the best writer, the director, and the producer that I can be, making sure that my project is great because that's what I have in my control, and then finding the right person, identifying the right people that can buy it or help me produce it. And then everything is timing, which means you have to look at like what's hot in the marketplace. What do you think that, who do you think that can buy your project at this time, because that's what the market is looking for. That's what the business is looking for. So definitely, that kind of consciousness you're always doing. So for yourself, it's absolutely a combination of talent, pitching, and hustle. So talent, obviously, that's what you're working on, whether you're a writer, a producer, a director, people behind the scenes, the set, decorators, all of these people have talent, and each of them can have a job in the industry. Pitching, what that is, which we're going to get into a little bit today, is that's your personal story, you telling your story, and then also telling the story of your project. So pitching is a huge part of what you'll be doing every single day, because you're always going to be talking about yourself so that people know who you are, and also so that people know what your skill sets are and what you want to be doing, so that when an opportunity comes across their desk or somebody hears about something, some opportunity that can come up, they'll be thinking about you. It's like, oh yeah, I met that young writer. They write action, and there's a job for action. Do you know what I mean? So you always have to be telling people what it is that you do, what it is that you want to be doing, and so that they know and that they can match you. And your hustle, that is definitely your drive to get yourself in front of these people and in a job opportunity that could help you, and also to be putting your projects in the right hands. So that is entirely up to you. And and the hustle, I will tell you that it really leads to most of the success that people have in Hollywood. It's because they're so driven, they're so determined, they're going to knock on every single door. And that's what it really takes. So this combination of your talent, which is in your control, something that you're always working on, pitching, which is being able to tell your story really, in a short manner, very clearly, and so that people know who you are, what you can do, the value you can bring, and also what you want to be doing in the future. And then your hustle, that is up to you. That's definitely how you're going to succeed. So it's those three things for sure that's going to help you succeed. Honing your craft, as I said, whether you're focused on writing or directing or producing, sound mixing, you pretty much name it. There are probably like hundreds of jobs in the industry, maybe even thousands at this point with digital and everything else. That's what's in your control, to be the best writer, the best producer, the best set decorator, the best editor, etc. And that's something that you can just always be doing. No one can stop you from doing that. And then, as I said, learning how to tell your story, which I'm going to get into. I'm going to give you some quick tips on that. And then planning your strategy, which is your hustle, who you're going to meet with, how you're going to get your project and yourself in front of people that could help you. The entertainment business, it's a relationship business. And what that means is that it's about the people. It's always about who you're meeting and who knows you. So it's definitely about who you know and who knows you all the time. And that's how you get jobs, and that's how you get referrals, and that's how you grow in the business. Because as you're meeting people and as they start climbing up the ladder, they become your contacts. So it's really, really important to meet as many people in the industry as possible. So that means networking. So that means meeting people and putting yourselves in positions so that you could be meeting people. And how you can do that is to attend all different kinds of events, whether it's film festivals or just different industry types of events. And it's actually pretty easy for you guys to get into these events if you volunteer. I mean, events are always looking for volunteers, people that could help behind the scenes. It's just a really great way to start meeting people and start learning how the business works. And actually, you could start really meeting some very big people because at these events, there are always speakers at these events. And this is how you can meet some of the bigger producers and the bigger writers and just a whole host of different people. So that's like a really great way to start building your network and start making contacts. Internships, I'm sure Aaron speaks about internships all the time. PA positions, that's another great way to start meeting people. And volunteering your services as much as possible. Sometimes, there's pay for internships and being a production assistant. Sometimes there isn't. But to get into to really get into the business, you just really want to put yourself out there. And people will always take volunteer services for sure. And you do a great job, and that can grow into something that that really will pay you. They'll get it'll bring money to you. And another great thing about building relationships is that's how you can get referred. Once you know somebody, they know what your work is, they know what your work ethic is, then you're in a really good position to ask people to refer you for other jobs or other opportunities or to other people. And also like if you need letters, referral letters and recommendation letters. Once you start building up your network, you can reach out to them again for all of these things that are important, like especially once you guys start going to college and going to other jobs. The referrals, it's extremely important, and it could open so many doors for you, these referrals, because it really is a relationship business. Strategy, this goes back to the hustle. So identifying where you want to work and why. That's really important. Like, these are questions for myself every single day. What do I want to be doing, and why, and who are the people that I want to be working with? Because it really is a relationship business. Half of it is having a great project, and the other half is the people that are hiring you, that they like you, because you're spending so much time with these people. You're spending 10, 12, 16 hours a day sometimes with the people that you're working with. So everybody really wants to be liking everybody, because one rotten apple in the bunch can just completely ruin everything, especially if you're on set. So, very much about being the best person you can be. Being confident. I know that this is also something that Aaron really wanted me to speak about in terms of confidence. Confidence that comes with really knowing your project, right? Like for myself, when I'm speaking about my projects or pitching my projects, and certainly talking about myself, when it comes to my projects, I make sure that I know my projects inside and out, so that when I'm speaking about them, I'm absolutely confident because I know it. When you know something, you're very confident. And if people start asking you questions, you can answer those questions, so you're confident. And with yourself and with your own story, which we're going to get into very soon, the format for being able to tell your story, the more that you practice that, telling your story, the more confident that you're going to be at telling your story. Because one of the things, especially when it comes to telling your story, is that people are kind of shy to tell their story. Like in our society, some people think that, that person is bragging, they're conceited, et cetera, if they're, talking about themselves. But this is like literally telling what you have to bring, what's interesting about yourself, and to let people know who you are quickly. And that it becomes a jumping off point so that you can have a conversation, a real human conversation, because you really want to be making human connections, going back to where it's a relationship business. Okay, so let's see, we don't have that much time, so I'm going to be skipping around a little bit. Oh, one thing that Aaron wanted me to cover was how to handle rejection. So rejection is part of the business. Everybody has an opinion, especially when it comes to anything that's creative and artistic. So if you give somebody your script, if you show them your cut, regardless of what it is, someone will always have an opinion. And that's just the nature of the beast. And so, with that feedback, with that feedback, and really, the whole thing in terms of, instead of looking at it as a criticism, you could put your feedback blinders on. Look through those lenses, because it really is about feedback. And sometimes the feedback is valuable, sometimes it's not. You, as the creator, as the author, as the person who literally created something where there was some feedback, sometimes that feedback is valuable. And sometimes it isn't, as I said, but you get to decide that you still have the control of what you're going to let in and what you're not. So really, in terms of rejection, it is just a huge part of the business, but it makes you stronger, learn from it, absolutely take the feedback that is valuable to make your project better, to make yourself better, learn and grow from it. So it's always an opportunity to learn and grow. And if it isn't valuable feedback, you just tuck that away, and you've got the last laugh at the end of the day, because it's up to you. You're still in control of what you're going to do with that feedback. So I want to go to pitching yourself, actually, so that you guys can tell your story. I have another document. One second. Let me just go back here. Pitching yourself. What it take? Second. Okay, I know what it is. Let me just see. Nope. Sorry, guys. Oh yeah, here we go. I had it open, I just didn't realize it was page 2. Okay, so pitching yourself, and usually when you go on meetings and when you meet people, the best thing to do is be able to tell your story in 2 minutes or less, because it's really this introduction, it's a jumping off point, and then you can have this very normal human conversation. So people pretty much make up their mind in the first 2 minutes when they meet you, whether they like you, if you could bring value, if it's someone that they can work with. Again, it's really important because you're spending so much time with the people that you work with. So know what you want to say within the first couple of minutes, the first few minutes. And people really do have to like you if they're going to read your script, if they're going to hire you. So it's really important. But you all seem pretty amazing, so I know you won't have any problems with this. So a couple of things about making your story really impactful is to make it memorable. And I'm sure most of you here are creative. So telling your story in a way that has images in it, so that people, they have an image, a positive image that they'll be thinking about you. So you can, obviously you'll start with your name. And the example that I'm giving is as a writer, but you fill in the blank for director, producer, editor, sound mixer, set decorator, etc. But you'll start with your name, and in this case, what you write. So, hi, I'm Maria de los Santos. I write X, and you can say, like horror, genre, TV, features, webisodes. You just fill in the blank there. So then after that, you're going to start creating a narrative, a story about yourself, things that imply your skill sets, what you're really great at. So just to give you an example, I worked in a hospital. My first job was as a bartender. I'm an Uber driver to pay the bills. Something that starts telling a little bit of a story about you. And then, if we have time, I'd love to hear some of your stories, some of your ideas. Then you're going to break down your story in 3 different parts, 3 different modules they're called, but 3 different parts. So just like any good story, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end, right? So module A, that's your background. So just to give you an example of what that could be like, that makes it interesting and colorful for the person that you're meeting with. So, I was born and raised in Chicago on the South Side. De los Santos means of the saints, but I wasn't a saint. I was a girl gang or, badass. But not really, not really at all. I was more like into a sugar high. I got a job as a secretary. I realized my job was, my life was bigger than my hood. DJing is how I worked my way through college. My short film won awards, and I worked at B&B Production Company. So you can see how really short and quickly you get the picture of who this person is. It's colorful, it gives imagery, and you can start telling that this person, she realized that she was greater than her circumstances and she wanted more, but in a really short little paragraph. Then the next part is your work experience. So I worked at B&B for 3 years as an assistant. I realized I wanted to write. I wrote a pilot, Girls Against Gangs. I loaded up my car. I moved to Beverly Hills. I sold the idea to Sony TV. It didn't get made, but I had to stick it out. I worked at Blumhouse Productions on The Purge. Then I wrote a story for Disney, the first Latina digital series. Again, it was really super short. You're telling a story, it's narrative, and you're filling in what your strengths are, what you're interested in. It says a lot about you. Okay, so moving on to the next, and then the last part is what you're currently doing. Module C, my current work experience. So what you're doing now. So I'm a staff writer on East Los High, and all of this together, these three parts, which you'll write, and it'll sound very conversational. That begins the jumping off point to have a conversation of value with the person that's on the other side of the table that can hire you, can help you make your project. But the most important thing is to establish a relationship with someone that you can work with for a long time, or someone that can refer you, and someone that really gets you, that again could refer you to different opportunities and just has you in the back of their mind because they know who you are, they know where you came from, they know what your work experience is up until that point, they know what you're currently doing, and they know what you want to be doing next.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
That begins here.
Yeah.
You guys are already working in crews, you're working, and it doesn't mean you have to be an adult to have contacts and be networking. I can't tell you how many of my former students work with each other because of where they came. They may not even be in the same class, they may have been years apart, but because they say, you went to Kennedy, I went to Kennedy, boom, there's your contact, okay? So don't think because you're just in high school or a teenager, you can't be networking and making contacts.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Does anyone have any questions on this so far at all? Okay, great, fantastic, fantastic. Are we okay on time? Because I know that Ernesto has to speak.
Did we have a chance to look at the dark project?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I want to show you a little bit of my work. So let me just bring that up. I'm going to show you one of my projects. As I mentioned, I work in both television and virtual reality. But in terms of television, one of the things that really helped me in terms of where I'm at now, because now I'm pitching and selling shows. I started out with a successful digital series called Dark Prophet, and it's a sci-fi action thriller. I'm going to show you the trailer at first, and then that's going to go into the second part, which is an EPK, which means an electronic press kit, which was going to tell you more about the project. Okay.
Still in state of consciousness. I've administered the maximum dosage. 20 more units.
The visions. They're getting worse.
His activity keeps plummeting. Have any idea what more to?
Interesting.
In like what, 1.3 seconds?
1.2. Contact made. Assets on the roof. Of course, the binary numbers.
And I think it's a set of coordinates.
To where?
Bucharest, Romania.
Okay, the target, Colonel. Bringing in green. That's Russ.
The number of leaks of government secrets is rising.
Kill the spiders. Find out who the hell planted it.
No. Sabrina! Sabrina!
Our dog pound has been compromised. Which dog pound? The dog pound.
Dark Prophet has a new song. A new message for us. And we'll be the first ones to hear it. Tonight!
Dark Prophet. Hear the warning. Dark Prophet is a sci-fi action thriller set in Los Angeles. The Dark Prophet franchise spans the full multimedia spectrum, including a web and TV series, smartphone and tablet apps, comic books, feature films, music iPad, iPhone, Android, and the web. With this app, fans can decode and encode hidden secrets into Dark Prophet songs, loops, and ringtones. These messages provide a fully immersive, interactive experience that covers virtually all forms of multimedia all over the world, allowing fans to join in Dark Prophet's efforts to stop Black Box. This is Dark Prophet.
The Dark Prophet has a new song, and we'll be the first ones to hear it tonight!
So that's Dark Prophet, and I'll tell you just a little bit about what happened with this project. So for myself, I'm from New York, if you can't tell from my accent. I went to NYU for film. I studied directing and film and television production there. And my short film, my senior thesis film from NYU, ended up winning the best of NYU, and it got me a lot of buzz, and that's what got me out to LA. That would be in part of my module number 1 from what I was just telling you guys. It paints a picture, you get a little bit more of an idea about me. Then once I got to LA, I had both traditional storytelling skills as well as a lot of digital skills. So I started working at the digital departments at the studios. Every studio and every production company has a digital department. And because now with storytelling in the 21st century, it's very much pretty much the same thing. And when I say digital, I'm talking about, of course, streaming video, as well as social media space, virtual reality, any other medium that has a digital format and delivery system that is part of the storytelling process and experience. So it's a big part of the business, the digital aspect of telling stories. No longer is it only the TV and film are the big mediums. Digital is just as huge and even more important because that's truly like the future. So I started working at these digital departments at the studios, and what was really beneficial about that is that the studios and these digital departments, they work with all of the different departments. So I started creating different kinds of video content or film content or interactive content for TV shows and movies and comic books and video games. You pretty much name it. Theme parks, you pretty much name it. Like whatever the different departments that the studios had, I was working on all of that and telling the stories of that, because it really is all of that, all those different mediums. There's a story. There's always a story. If there's a TV show and you're creating a web series that's part of the TV show, there's a story there. You're integrating story, or you're expanding stories of the characters or plot lines, etc. It's all about story. So anyway, I really started practicing my skills of how to tell stories on different mediums. As I was saying, whether it was video games, there was a story there. Plus, I also had the art skills, so I was designing too and doing a lot of interactive work. So video games, apps, like I said, comic books, the theme parks, rides, etc. Was like, what was the story about that? And because I'm also an artist, what was the interactive experience of that? And how is all of that telling story and tying value back to the TV show or the film or the comic book or the video game, etc. So I really honed my craft, as I was going back to before. Always, you're working on your talent all the time. I just got better and better at telling stories on different mediums and platforms. So that opened many, many doors for me, where I was able to work at music, like record labels, and I worked for Madonna for 3 years creating her content. I worked for Snoop Dogg for several years creating his digital content. So it all comes from that. All of that telling the story has opened so many doors, but understanding different mediums. And for you guys, going into the industry now, it's not only about traditional TV, it's not only about traditional film. There are so many other mediums that are really exciting and emerging, especially virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality. I mean, all these other mediums which are going to be incredibly big once you guys really start hitting the workforce. I encourage you to start learning the rules, the storytelling rules of those mediums, so that you could apply what you already know and grow and expand in that. So anyway, I started working at these digital departments. I met tons of people, the networking. I have the New York hustle. I work 25/7, and I have my strategy of always how to get my projects into somebody's hands. So that just opened a lot of doors. I started my own production company, started creating all of this content for other people. But what happened was that I got so caught up in telling other people's stories that I didn't have time to finish my scripts, finish my productions. So I wanted to go back to, I decided to go to grad school, and I went to UCLA because I really wanted to focus on television. And they had a really great 2-year concentration just on television writing and television show running. And if you don't know what show running is, it's literally the person that runs the show, is the person that's responsible for delivering an episode to the studio, a network, could be a digital, could be Netflix, et cetera. So that's like, it's usually the person that pitches the show and writes the show and created the show. But sometimes it could be a producer that had the idea. So I decided to go back to school, and while I was in grad school, I had the idea for Dark Prophet, but it wasn't the right show to develop for UCLA. But NYU, I told you I went to NYU first. They have a really fantastic alumni here in LA, thriving alumni. This is also another great opportunity for you guys to network. As Aaron said right here, that you guys are networking amongst yourself. But once you start going on to college, if you go to college, or any kind of group, if you start joining other groups, whether it's writing groups or directing groups, you start creating a kind of alumni with those people. So anyway, I graduated from NYU, as I mentioned, and they have a great alumni out here. And every couple of years, they have a digital series lab, like their own web series lab, the way that Sundance does. So I submitted Dark Prophet, and they had received over 3,000 alumni submissions from students from all over the world that had graduated from Tisch, the Tisch School of the Arts, NYU. And Dark Prophet became one of the 10 semifinalists, and I ended up winning that competition. And the judges were NBC Universal Television executives who really loved it, and that led to me getting a production grant from NBC Universal. So I kept making episodes. I kept making episodes of this series, and then Sundance had heard about me and the project, and they wanted to see it, and they really loved it. So then Dark Prophet, this digital series, ended up premiering at Sundance, the Sundance Film Festival, in 2014. And then there were television executives there from DirecTV who really loved it. And then the digital series went and aired on DirecTV, all 11 episodes. And because it was on television and did really well, it was nominated for 2 Emmys in the interactive category. I lost the Game of Thrones, but I can live with that. And now I'm creating the virtual reality series, and the digital series is available on Amazon Prime. So I'm sharing this story with you because there's so many takeaways that I think that for you guys that you can really walk away with that you can do. First of all, it was a digital series that I created. It was completely in my control. I wrote it, I directed, I produced it. You guys have a tremendous network here that you can do the same thing. And then once you actually create something, you have something to show. And it's just a matter, again, of it's the right project in the right hands at the right time, and magic can happen.
I got a question, and then we're going to roll into our next guest. I'm going to have a question for Yvette, and I want to see if someone can actually dovetail with my question to something that they can relate to. Can you share with the students your struggles to success as a creative Latina and entrepreneur?
Sure, absolutely.
Some of the things that you maybe share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that it's definitely harder for people of color, and women. And I've got both. I check both of those boxes as a Latina. And really what it is, it's just that the business has been doing business the same way for so long, working with the same people. And usually those people, they happen to be straight white men in their middle-aged and older. And those are most of the people that are working in the industry today, whether it's television, whether it's film, whether it's any medium. It's usually these white men, straight men in their mid-50s and up. So they have the track record. Many of them have been doing great work. So when there are new projects, new opportunities in the business, like if a studio has a new script that they want written, they're usually going to go to who's delivered in the past. Because it's a risky business. It's a very expensive business. It costs a lot of money to produce content. So they want to hire people that have the track record, and that's all great and that makes sense. But the problem is that most of those people, as I said, who've had the opportunity to do it again and again and again and get really good at it, usually are these straight white men that are in their 50s and up. So for somebody else to be coming in that isn't that, it's harder, right? So that's why you really need these referrals. You need to create your own body of work that really proves that you can do it. And you have to have your confidence, and you have to have your hustle, and you have to make sure that you are putting the right project in the right hands at the right time so that you can't be denied. But that's what we're battling. It's just, the system has been working that way for a really long time. For the most part, it works. For the most part, it works, or it has worked. It's not working as well lately because it really is, a melting pot in America and the world. It is a diverse world, and people do want to see themselves more and more and more. So we'll see, like the Straight Outta Comptons. That'll be, this big hit because people want to see themselves. It's a group that is underserved in the media, and there are many, many, many examples of that. So this is the challenge because it's just the reality. It's just the reality. So for myself and my everyday, I'm always about creating the best project that I can, writing the best scripts, coming up with the best ideas, partnering with people that could really add value, help me. Get past this conversation of well, she hasn't really done it before. We haven't worked with a Latina, and unfortunately, these are some of the conversations that occur. So partnering with other people that could actually help you move forward, that's another great strategy. That's something else that you can really do. And like I said, you have to have your confidence. And I'm really, really active on this, diversity or inclusion subject in general. I'm the vice chair of the Latino Writers Committee at the Writers Guild, and I create events, lots of events to put writers, Latino writers specifically, in front of somebody that can hire them or buy their project. And it's really working because once you get to the person that could actually pull the trigger, that's where the magic really can happen. But it's getting to that person. And the way that the business is set up right now, it's just harder for people of color and women to get to those people. So, you just have to have your strategy, you have to have your confidence, you have to make sure that your work is the best that it can possibly be. Because that's another thing for people of color, is that we have to be better. Our work has to be better. We get one chance, other people, they get to fail again and again and again. We get one chance to really make a first killer impression. So we have to be at our best, and that's the reality.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
One little quick question.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned you really honed in your writing skills. But
Yes.
You also mentioned your art direction, you're in VR.
Yes.
So as people are developing their skills, should they take more of a broad approach or more of a specialty or both?
When you're first breaking in, it's definitely I advise, and everyone that you will speak to will advise, is to basically pick a lane, right? Pick something that you're great at. What is the thing that you're the best at? So whether it is writing, or whether it is producing, or whether it is editing, or it's sound mixing, absolutely start there. Even if your goal is to direct, you know what I mean? But start with what you're really, really great at, because that's the way that you can break in. Start creating relationships, climb up the ladder, and if you're an editor, right? So if you break in as an editor, and you can still write, and your goal is to really write a TV show, et cetera, keep working on that, because you're going to be meeting people that you're going to have the opportunity to give it to. So absolutely pick a lane at the beginning, be great at that. And if you want to do other things, make sure that those other things that you're putting just as much effort to get really, really good at those other things, so that when opportunity does strike, you absolutely can put your projects in the right hands.
Okay. If we can't give Yvette a round of applause for sharing her story.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
We're going to roll in. We have another guest speaker, and he's going to kind of bridge where Yvette talked about getting into the industry. He's going to talk about some of the steps and some of the things that you guys have to really lean in on. This is a very important time in your careers and in your development to a career pathway. So if you guys can, Filiberto Gonzalez, we need a round of applause after he speaks.
Thank you, Kevin. So first of all, just give me a sense here. Have you all ever met Kevin before? Kevin, this is your first time here? All right. How often do you all have guest speakers come into your class? Not ever?
Excuse me, quick second, sir. Sorry to disturb.
More next year.
More next year, okay. So Mr. Lemos, how long has this program here existed?
15 years.
15 years. That's amazing because I was blown away the second I walked in. I mean, this is ridiculous in the best sense of the word. So I counted about 25 students that are in the class here. Did they self-select?
Yes.
They self-selected, okay. How many of you actually moved here, or this isn't necessarily your home school, but you actually decided to come to Kennedy to be part of this program? See, that's ridiculous. See, that's ridiculous. So how many of you came here from more than 5 miles away? So a good amount, okay. So anyone in particular, how did you hear about this program? For those of you who raised your hand. Not all at once.
Come on, guys.
Not all at once.
Speaking is the first thing. Come on.
Bella, how did you choose it?
My mom told me about it because my brother researched it.
Okay, and how far away is your home?
From San Fernando, so it's like 15-minute drive.
Not that far, not that far, but still, this is not necessarily your home school. Okay, and who else raised their hand? Okay, how about you?
I went to Pacoima for film, and I decided to go here.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, it looked like more than half the class, self-selected and really already has shown a good amount of ambition, right? To make their way here, okay? So you have a treasure trove. You have really an embarrassment of riches because you have something that's awfully unique. Mr. Limos, do you have an idea of how many other schools, let's just say in the Valley, that have these type of resources at their disposal?
Are we talking resources or the classes? Because
A class like this with the green screen, with the editing dot.
They don't have I have my students for 3 years.
You have your students for 3 years?
Yeah, I have, this is the second year that I have these students, and I'll have them next year as well. So I have them for 3 years, and that's really unique anywhere in the district.
That's remarkable. So how much time do I have, Kevin?
You got about 15, almost 15 minutes.
Okay, all right. Then again, my name is Filiberto Gonzalez. I think Kevin wanted me to be here because I'm an entrepreneur. I started my own business. We've had a chance to work through social media over the years. And ultimately, if I have 15 minutes, I'll just drop give you examples of my own experience and try to impart whatever wisdom I have. And then we can take it from there. So what you've already illustrated is that you are more ambitious, more willing, more eager, and all of that in the best sense of the word than probably 95% of your peers, okay? So you've already set yourself up for success. So that in and of itself, give yourself a round of applause, right? Because you've already done that. Now, if you haven't heard the term, you happen to live in the city or in the region where our signature industry is what? Anybody? Our signature industry? This city's signature industry is oil, right? Oil, right? This is Houston? No? No, no, we're not in Houston. Okay. All right. Our signature industry is government. Right? We're in Washington, D.C.? No? Okay, I'm sorry. Where am I? What is our signature industry? What is this, the defining business of the city of Los Angeles? Yes, sir. I'm sorry? Film, entertainment? Right, the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry, right? They say something, so whether you are actually working in the entertainment industry as our previous speaker, or you just happen to live in Los Angeles, there's no way around it, right? You are impacted in one way or the other by the entertainment industry because it is, in fact, our signature industry. And if you want to work in the entertainment industry in a real way, then there's absolutely no reason why you can't actually build a career in the entertainment industry. And I'll tell you why. You've already shown that you have the raw goods to get you there. Number two, proximity. You're already here. You didn't have to move across the country to actually get here. Okay? Here's the thing I have to tell you. it's really a thorn in my side. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't feel this way. Maybe I should applaud everyone's ambition and success. But I would tell you this. I would say the vast, vast majority, present company excluded, and I mean that sincerely, but the vast majority of people who I meet that end up developing a career in the entertainment industry moved here from somewhere else in the country or in the world. They literally, now I happen to have moved here from another part of the state, from more than 300 miles away. So I'm not necessarily a native Angelino, but I've lived here my entire adult life, okay? But the people, and so I couldn't help but notice that, but the reason why it puts a thorn in my side is because I say, wait a minute, what happened to these, to the tens of thousands of kids who graduate from school in LA every year? Why didn't they get those jobs? Why? So ultimately, someone in the industry said, okay, well, we're going to put out a position. There's in the industry, they have what's called above line, below line, right? And below, the vast majority of jobs are below line, which are behind the camera, right? Right? You have the talent who stand in front of the camera, that's above line. Everyone else is below line, right? But somebody had to actually say, well, we need this position. We need to fill this position, right? You already heard a little bit about networking and about contacts, right? So they generally have a preference for people who they may have known, who they may have already had contact with. And they're generally going to be more or less people like them, whoever is making that decision, okay? But again, what happened to the scores, to the tens of thousands of LA students who graduated? Why didn't they get that position? They were already here. They didn't have to move clear across the country. So again, forget all the other kids who are your cohorts, who are your peers, across the valley, across the city, who have the same ambition, as you do, but didn't even know Kennedy Film existed. Otherwise, they would be in here too. They didn't have a mother or a cousin or a relative or a friend to even tell them about this. Otherwise, they would be here too. And they're gonna have to just hustle a little bit more through community college, through undergrad, whatever it may be, to make up for what you already have and what you're going to receive in 3 years, okay? So I say that to essentially say there's really no reason why you can't make it. There's really nothing stopping you. You already have essentially just about all of the advantages you need, not least God-given talent and ambition. Okay, so you already have that. You've already exhibited that by the fact that you're here. Okay, you already have the proximity. Okay, and now you're going to end up with the experience, thanks to Mr. Lemos and his program here. Okay, so ultimately, the table will be set for you at that point. One thing the previous speaker I alluded to and said, ultimately, content is king, right? Content is king. So that's the X factor, okay? You could be born to the most successful executive that this city has ever known, entertainment executive this city has ever known. And God knows there's a few of them who ended up making it into Hollywood without any talent, okay? So you could have been born to the most successful Hollywood executive ever to have lived, okay? But if you yourself do not have talent, they might give you one shot in the film. They might even give you 2 shots, okay? But are they gonna get their own Academy Award? They're not gonna, no, why? Because they don't have the talent. That's the X factor. That's what you have to cultivate on your own, right? So the table is already being set or is set for you. The X factor that will ensure your success will be born out of your own hustle, as was mentioned before, your own willingness and ability to cultivate your own talent and to sharpen that and sharpen it and sharpen it. And when everyone else wants to go out and party, you're going to keep sharpening your skills, okay? Here's the last thing I want to say because I think I'm running out of time, okay? So ultimately, tables being set, the X factor, you already know, I'm sure Mr. Lemos tells you this every day, right? How to prepare, how to build your craft. Now, fun fact, I made, just by complete coincidence, I'm not necessarily in the entertainment industry, but I made my first film in the summer between junior year and senior year of high school. Who here has already made their first film? Yeah? All right. All right. So that's good. I used these VHS large, I'm not even sure what they're, camcorder? Yeah. Camcorder. That's what we used. And our friends sort of just kind of made it up. My friends and I just made it up on the fly. And it worked out. And our teacher let us show it in class. But we didn't have anything like this, right? Ultimately, you already have all of that. You have the experience, you have the know-how. The last thing, again, I want to say is this. Whatever, you heard a little bit about how the model is changing, okay? Everything that you already know that to be new is essentially already old. You will define what is new. You will define what is next. When I was your age, which is the first time I've ever said that in my life, when I was your age, there, the models that had been tried and true forever still existed. It's either film in the movie theater or it's TV. Only in the last 5 years we talked about third screen. No one even talks about third screen anymore. What's the third screen? Right? The handheld, right?
And arguably the first screen.
Now, yeah, that used to be called the third screen just 5 years ago. So my point is that you're setting the table now. You're developing your skill set now, okay? But by the time you're ready to play and get in there, essentially, you will be defining what is next. You will be defining what is next, okay? So it is incumbent upon you, okay, to always, okay, keep your horizons as wide as possible. Okay, because whatever is next, you will essentially create that. You will make that. You will be there when it happens. So my last point to you, I'm going to go really, really old school. There's a very well-known and successful producer or director, Woody Allen. I had to look up the quote because I thought I was wrong. I was in fact right. But so the quote is from Woody Allen is 80% of success is simply showing up. Just being in the room. And guess what? You're already in the room. Okay? So just remember that. Keep in mind what was said earlier. You've already shown the ambition by putting yourself here. If you can put yourself here, you can put yourself into an internship at the AFI Film Festival, at any film festival in town. When the people that put that on see that you were there 15 minutes early, half hour early, they're going to notice that. And when it comes time to looking for someone to actually fill with the paid role, they're going to remember that. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, that'd be great. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. If you guys can come in here today at lunch to work on your films to prep, that would be great, just to get that extra time, okay? Okay. In closing remarks, guys, the reason why we're here, Philip Birchall, Yvette, myself, Unesca, Mike in the back, we're here to help you guys prepare for 10 paid summer internships that have been committed to us. So we're going to start working towards that goal of getting you guys to be the best candidates for these paid summer internships. We'll learn more. 10 of you in here. So that's 100